In August 1854, a 4-month-old girl started vomiting in a cramped room on Broad Street, London. Her mother rinsed the diaper in a bucket, then she dumped that water into a cesspool. That cesspool sat 3 feet from a public water pump. Within 10 days, over 500 people in a quarter-mile radius were dead. Doctors at the time believed disease traveled through bad air. They called it miasma. Rotting smells, they thought, made people sick, but one doctor didn't believe it. His name was John Snow, and he thought something was wrong with the water. Snow walked door to door. He didn't have a lab. He didn't have germ theory. Germs hadn't been proven yet. What he had was a notebook and a map. He marked every single death with a black bar on a street map of Soho. Not a red dot, a bar, stacked like a bar chart laid over the city itself. The bars piled up around one location, the Broad Street pump. Why would water do this? Water is supposed to be safe. Water is supposed to be life. Snow found something else. A workhouse just steps from the outbreak had barely any deaths. Its residents drank from a different private well. A brewery nearby had almost no cases either. The workers there didn't drink water at all. They drank beer, brewed with boiled water. The pattern wasn't random. It was drawing a shape, and that shape pointed to one handle, on one pump, on one street. On September 8th, 1854, Snow convinced local officials to do something almost absurd for the time. He asked them to remove the handle from the Broad Street pump. No cure, no treatment, just take away the handle. Deaths in the area collapsed almost immediately. Snow didn't work alone. A local clergyman, Reverend Henry Whitehead, had set out to prove Snow wrong. Whitehead went house to house, interviewing survivors, certain the water theory was nonsense. Instead, his interviews led him straight back to that infant on Broad Street. The mother's wash water, the leaking cesspool, the pump 3 feet away. Whitehead didn't disprove Snow. He found the origin case Snow had been missing. Here's the part that should unsettle you. This wasn't ancient history happening to distant people. London in 1854 had over 2 million residents. Most of its waste went into the ground, into cesspools, into rivers people also drank from. The River Thames itself was, by the late 1850s, thick with sewage. In the summer of 1858, the smell became so unbearable that Parliament nearly evacuated. Newspapers called it the Great Stink. Lawmakers who had ignored years of warnings about sanitation suddenly cared once the smell reached their own windows. Isn't it strange what it actually takes to change a system? Not the deaths of the poor in Soho, the discomfort of the powerful downstream. Parliament finally funded a solution. An engineer named Joseph Bazalgette designed a sewer network to carry London's waste away from its drinking water, out past the city entirely. Bazalgette's system used over 1,100 miles of new sewer lines. He built the tunnels wider than his own calculations said were necessary. When asked why, he reportedly said they should only have to do this once. He was right. Parts of his system are still functioning under London today, more than 160 years later. What Snow and Whitehead and Bazalgette built together wasn't just plumbing. It was proof of something modern cities now depend on entirely. Separate your water from your waste, or your city will kill itself. Every major city on Earth now follows this principle. Every time you turn a tap and trust what comes out, you are relying on a lesson written in a cholera graveyard in Soho. Snow died in 1858, only 4 years after removing that pump handle. He never saw germ theory formally proven. He never got to see his map become one of the founding documents of modern epidemiology. His famous map wasn't just a picture, it was an argument, a way of turning invisible deaths into a visible pattern anyone could see. That idea, that you can defeat what you cannot see by mapping where it strikes, is still how epidemiologists track outbreaks today. From cholera in 1854 to COVID-19 in 2020, the method is the same. Find the cases, plot the pattern, follow it to the source. Here's the question worth sitting with. How many other invisible threats are shaping your life right now? Waiting for someone to draw the right map? Cholera didn't just kill people in 1854. It forced humanity to redesign the modern city from the ground up, literally, pipe by pipe. The next time you walk past a manhole cover or flush a toilet without a second thought, remember what that convenience cost to build. It cost an infant's life on Broad Street. It cost a doctor years of being ignored. It cost a city admitting it had been poisoning itself the entire time. We don't think about sewers because they work, but they only work because once an entire city had no choice but to look directly at its own filth and finally do something about it. The pump handle is gone now, but the map Snow drew never stopped being true. Somewhere beneath every city you have ever lived in, that same argument is still running. Clean water in one direction, waste in the other. Never let them meet. That is the quiet, invisible war every modern city is still fighting, every single day, whether you notice it or not.